Greetings and salutations, Pokemon fans. Today we're back with more exquisite Pokemon gameplay. Looking at another Smogon Premier League game from week 5 between Monai and SoulWind. So what do we get from this preview? SoulWind is loading up somewhat standard hyper offense team. So that means his sets are mostly legible, I would say. Right? So it's Rocks Chomp, probably Sash, Scarf Girachi with Healing Wish, DD Dragonite. The moves are not that obvious, but usually when it's like this, you have Fire Punch, Extreme Speed. Ice Punch, Superpower is another path that sometimes DD Knight takes, but that's a bit more specific, I feel like. It wouldn't support the rest that well with Ice Punch Superpower, while Fire Punch lets it damage, say, Skarmory for Shield Sweep or the other way around much more easily. Starmie probably Balloon 3 attacks, nothing fancy here. Scizor is probably his Force Dance, Bullet Punch Superpower. Last move could be either Pursuit or Quick Attack. Usually with Rachi you see Quick Attack, but Rachi is not enough, right, to beat both Latios and Zam, like in this case. Like you risk the Psychics just win. So it could very well be Pursuit. And then we have a Volcarona, which, well, could be anything really, but I'm going to assume it's Life Orb. The other sets fell off a bit, although I I think they're still viable, but Volcarona itself is a bit of a bad spot nowadays. Like the one is just I don't know if people have gotten better at positioning against it, which I feel like it is partially that, but also just the meta games not very kind to Volk in general. Even in a game like this, right? This is perfect. This is the perfect Volk matchup, right? You have zero things that really beat it one on one, especially at +1. But setting it up is going to be impossible. Ferrothorns mostly. The main cause is probably Ferrothorns movesets changing, right? They've gotten way less greedy recently, and so there's more Thunder Wave, Leech Seed, Explosion, some other teams, though probably not this one, but just Thunder Wave makes Life or Volk a bit of a liability, and if you go Lamberry, which is fine, but then with the way people EV their Tyranitar nowadays, which is max special defense, careful, you don't do enough damage at +1 to Titar, and that makes the game really hard for you. And yeah, that's it for Soul Team. And the nice thing about Hyper Offense is that you don't really have to think too hard about the lead matchup, at least. You just lead Garchomp and click rocks in this game. Like there's no other play for you. Okay, if you lead into Rotom Wash, then you may make a case for clicking Swords Dance turn 1. Because if Wisp misses, then you can click rocks turn 2 and or well, no, you should probably still click rocks, but you can SD turn 1 on Rotom, that's totally fine. But beyond that's about it with your decision making tree with this matchup. On Ice Team, this is the most standard Sun team of all times. I'm going to assume it's Life Orb Zam, especially defensive Landorus, the usual Rotom, Bold, Ferro, Spikes, whatever, and Scarflatios, and maybe Chopol or Kustaberry Titar. This is a pretty common preview. There's not really much to think about, I believe. So you lead with Titar here because you really need Sand up turn 1, and you lead Garchomp here. Leading Titar is kind of counterintuitive in black and white, but against hyper offense, you probably should do it most of the times. You want sound up as soon as possible because these teams play in a way that you really don't get many opportunities to get Tita in ever, and even when you do, it's a bit of a feel bad moment. So yeah, we're going to see a Tita versus Garchomp bleed. If you played on ladder, you would face people leading Rotten Wash and Wisp into one, which is okay-ish. You can make a case that it's not a bad of play because you can Wisp turn one, then hard Tita turn two, and it's kind of the same, but you also win the turn one. But that means having to hit Will-O-Wisp turn one, or or you just instantly lose. So I do not necessarily recommend it. Leading Lando, problem with Lando is that if the Garchomp goes offensive, you kind of die instantly, and then you lose Lando, and then your game gets exponentially harder. So, and also you're never getting rocks up, though you're never preventing spin either. So maybe that's okay. Anyway, I expect that Tita versus Garchomp after all of this. Okay, Garchomp. Tyranitar. Right, what is the Tyranitar clicking? Rocks? Okay, so when Tyranitar runs rocks, it means that the Landorus is not your main rocker, and so it's likely Scarf Lando. Because if you had, okay, here's the theory behind this whole idea, right? Okay, so Tyranitar is a bad stealth rock user because you really need it to do one job very well, and rocks kind of prevent him from doing that job very well, which is pursuit the broken Latios and Zam and Orbit Volca in this case. But if you spend a turn clicking rocks, you are at very high risk of taking a lot of damage in the process, and that means you will not beat those things anymore. And you can see it right in this turn. Okay, maybe Monai doesn't care about Volcarona, but let's assume SoulWind clicked Earthquake here. Titar will survive. You only need like 20 defense saves to always leave, but actually maybe you always leave it anyway. But anyway, you will be left with a Titar at 5%, and then it's a bit unfortunate because if the ball gets a Quiver Dance up, then it kind of sweeps. But obviously, as I said earlier, maybe he's got stuff on his team to prevent it. And also, if Scarflandros is faster than most Volcaronas nowadays at +1, so that's also fine. But there's another problem, I think, with this play, which is now Garchomp's Worse Dance, and what's your play? Do you go Lando here? And then you're only facing a +1 Sash Jump. I think if you stay in here and you have Ice Beam, you should probably click Ice Beam. If um, there is a way out of this, which is you go land on this Force Dance and then Ferrothorn on the Outrage, and but that costs you your Ferrothorn. I'm not convinced this is the best play. Right, let's see what happens. So USD, okay. Let's see the Lando. Okay, no lefty, so 90% chance it's Scarf, probably even higher. And here's the problem. You have to U-turn to break Sash, and then go Ferrothor, right? Problem with this is that, well, one, SoulWind could just decide to click Earthquake, though it's a bit weird. But even if it outrages, Ferrothor is going to take a lot of damage. Let's see, 25%. Okay, Ferro will take 30 something percent, 38. Right, if you have Leech Seed, this is fine. If not, maybe not. Okay, that's crit. Um, Crit means, yeah, no, this is even worse though, because okay, without crit you could make the case that Feral and Garchomp kill each other, which yes, because then you on turn 4 you click Power Whip, do 40 something percent, and then Garchomp outrages you, you die to the outrage damage, and you kill each other with like rough skin and iron barbs. But that's okay, I think, because that's much better rather for Monai over this crate, because now you have to revenge kill this Garchomp, right? But all of your options are awful. Zam is probably your best one, and but the problem with Zam is that then Rachi comes out and just U-turns, and you go, I don't know, say Rotom Orlando, and then SoulWind can reposition with something that's very annoying to face for either of these mons. Latios has the same issue, and plus takes rocks and sun, so definitely not. Lando, you have to Earthquake, but then if you Earthquake or Ice, Starmie comes out as spins for free, and so I don't know. Actually, if you Ice move, then Scizor comes out, and if your Rotom is not faster than Scizor, it's not always the case on this type of teams. You kind of lose on the spot if it's worse than Life or Bullet Punch Superpower, because everything dies in one. Um, there's also the mm, yeah, no, this is just awful. There's Yeah, Zami is the best one because at least you don't take a billion extra damage. Okay, here comes the Rachi, and you switch to probably Lando, yeah. So if Lando is Scarf, this is what specs Latios. And here comes the massive problem. That's called Scissor. What do you click? You turn, okay. Oh, nice pursuit. And now Lando is gone. Hmm, this is a disaster. Superpower, sure, some damage, always nice. Rotom will probably click just bump to kill, sure. Can Monai win from here? This looks compromised. Xander is dead, which... Oh, wait, no, there's no way Monai can win this, right? I mean, there is a minuscule chance, but this is just Jirachi. The Jirachi show is about to come down, huh? Okay, Dragonite is in. Okay, this is an interesting one though, because while most Dragonites recently have been leftovers, some still run Lamberry. And so the question here is, what do you click as Monai? So if you expect a DD, you Volt Switch, and if you are Cast Berry Tyranitar, which Monai loves, Outrage will not kill you and put you in custom range. So you Volt Switch on the Dragonite and then crunch it with Titar as it outrages you. And that leaves you a Titar with Custom Berry activated. So the next turn you can do something. Could be T-Wave or Crunch or whatever. Um, but what if someone just clicks outrage here? I think that's a realistic click. In fact, I would probably do it. Hmm. If you roll outrage, if Monai goes Lando, you're kind of you kind of lost your D knight, so maybe not. But uh, you also have to take into account the possibility of your opponent just wisping, right? If you roll outrage and your opponent switches anyway, you're pretty happy because you have a Jirachi that's very strong. What else could you do? Strange speed? No. Fire punch? No. So it's either DD or outrage here. Um, if you DD and evolve switch and it is custom berry though, that's kind of dicey, I feel like. You just toss Volcarona on the Castle Berry. That the Volcarona is completely useless at this point, so yeah. But then you only have Rachi and Starmie for Latios Zamtitar. For Latios Zam Rotom, and then you have to get kind of lucky with Jirchi. So maybe this is the most important turn of the game. If Monai Vol switches, this is all assuming Monai's Costa Berry Titar. If it's Chopple, then this is one for SoulWind. But if it is Costa Berry, and there's a very decent chance it is, because there's a Scarflandros here, right? So you're like, okay, I can beat Zam offensively. And also it will have to hit a couple of Focus Blasts. That's also a kind of a stopgap, at least, to a point. Okay, so if this is Customary Titar, and Rotom Ball switches and does, I don't know, 25-30% to D-Knight, something like that. As D-Knight Dragon Dances, and then you go Titar, survive the outrage. I think you do. You should. So you outrage, the crunch kills you. It should kill you. And then you have a Titar at 5% on the field with Castaberry. You have Girchi Starmie Volk, so you risk the Rachi, kind of, or you go Volk. I think Volk is the option, the play. Although it's Rocks Titar, so it's not TO Wave, right? There's no way it's Crunch Pursuit TO Wave Rocks, so you can go Rachi and just don't get Crunch Crit. It probably doesn't even kill, but just in case. Hmm. But and then what? You U-turn? I think that might be game losing though. Because you have a Jirachi. Well, without crit, you take what, 40 something percent, so never mind. I guess you can just not get crit. Hmm. That will leave Latios Zam and 25-7% Rotom versus 50% Rachi Starmie Volk. But the momentum is back on Monai's side, and you go to a Pokemon that will get one hit KO by Zam, and you cannot even like you have to go Volk, sacrifice it, then Gorachi, U-turn. But does U-turn even kill Zam? Hmm. Yeah, no, I'm outraging. I mean, my gut feeling was to outrage, but um, yeah, let's see what happens, I guess. When I hard switches, he also got scared by the hard outrage, and so when didn't outrage. Okay, I think this is just game. Because you crunch here and do 50%. That's about it. Yeah. But you lose the cast up without getting the extra value out of it. Oh man, if Monai ball switched there, I think this was totally well, maybe not fine, but winnable. Yeah, now we just surf. or even spin. Spin is a bit crazy, I think. It probably doesn't matter because Rachi is your win condition anyway. Okay, this is a good one because you can pain split. Recovery Atom is quite good. And yeah, your opponent could Hydro Pump and kill Volk, but then the Atom is just dead. Okay, sack Titar and hope your opponent is not Quiver Dancing this turn. And if he is, you've lost. Well, good Zam. Probably. Latios. Just Draco. Surf. That's decent damage. Crit. Latios survived, but you will be surfing to a Starmie. I guess it removes your own crit chance on the Starmie, but does it really matter? Mm, that was probably already lost, so nothing to. Does it all crit Zan? Kill Zan? Oh, it does. Okay. I mean, yeah, it's an Alakazam. Right, right, right. And that's game. Well played by both. Unfortunate crit with the chomp on the Ferro. That really puts Owen in a dominant position, so he could just click the obvious move every turn, which, I mean, some people even fail to do that, so more power to him. But yeah, he still played well. I mean, it's this type of teams. If you know the flow chart, you can you can coast to win pretty easily in a lot of situations like this. When I played very hard to claw back, but he was too far behind. Although I still wonder about that turn 8? 9. Turn 9. This one. Right. This I think this looks like the game deciding turn. As I said, if you Vol Switch on the DD and go Titar, then you kill Dragonite with Titar, and then you have a Castaberria active. And the rocks are up. So your opponent should go Rachi, but then Rachi takes a crunch, and that puts it in range of Latios. Doesn't have enough mons to do this though. That's the complicated part. I mean, it's not that complicated. Okay, so you Vol Switch, Dragonite takes 25, let's say, as it did is up. You go Titar, Crunch the Knight, you survive with, what was it, 10%? Okay, so you have a 10% Titar versus Rachi, Starmie, Volk. Rocks are up. So your opponent has to go Rachi. You activate your Castaberry and crunch it. Fire move it if you have it. I don't know exactly what the Titar set. But if it's fire move, I think you crunch anyway, just in case your opponent tries to scout it. It should do decent damage based on the fact that Dragonite took 50% from crunch. So the Rachi should also take a little bit less because usually it's max HPs on this type of builds. Let's say it takes 40%. So that leaves it at 54. It Yotors on the Titar. Titar dies, and you have to go Volk or Starmie. But that means if you go Volk, I mean, in either case, your opponent goes Zam. And then what's your play? It has to be Volk. Because Starmie just dies to, I don't know, Grass Knot, Signal Beam, Shadow Ball, whatever. Volk will take rocks, so it will be at 50% plus Sand 44%. And if you click Psychic move with Zam and Rachi comes back in, you sacrifice land on the rocks, and if the Rachi clicked U-turn, you go. You can't go Rotom, right? Because your opponent U-turns to Volk. Volk dies to rocks because it's at 40%. But Zam dies to U-turn, so you have to go Latios. But your opponent U-turns and sacrifices Volk anyway, and then goes back to Rachi. But then you have a 40% Rachi and Starmie versus Rotom Zam. And then there's another play to consider, right? Let's say you go into Rotom once the Rachi's. So Rachi U-turns on the Latios. Let's say it doesn't crit. Latios clicks whatever move, probably Draco. Latios takes, I don't know, 70% from the U-turn, and so it sacrifices Volcarona on rocks. And goes back Rachi. Rachi is now at 35%, and there's a low Latios on the field. You U-turn, kill Latios, Starmie. No, that loses if you don't flinch, right? Because you go Starmie, your opponent goes Zam, click Signal Beam, Jirachi will die, so you have to sack Starmie, and then you have to Iron Head your way to victory. Rotom is at 27% though, so you really need at least like 3 flinches, probably more. So if we rewind back and go Volk on the, like, we send Volk out after the Knight has died, and opponent goes Zam, and you immediately switch to Rachi. Does it change anything? Probably not. I don't know. A complicated late game. You have to consider a bunch of stuff. But yeah, what happened to Volcarona Sprite, man? Okay, I guess we hate the voice back sprite today. All right. Well, anyway, interesting game. Well played both, and see you next time.